Is the YoloBox Mini still worth it in 2023? It's been a year and a half since my first video about the YoloBox Mini. In that time, they've shipped a whole bunch of firmware updates, and it's almost a completely different device. Now, before we get into this video, Yololiv did send me this YoloBox Mini, and I do provide them with feedback and advice on future developments, but this video isn't sponsored and they don't get to review it before I post it. I first want to talk about a few of the key features about the YoloBox Mini that make it really special. It is now a full video switcher. What I mean by that is it used to actually only recognize one input, either HDMI or USB, but you can actually now connect cameras to both inputs and switch between them. A great use case for this is using a USB camera like the Insta360 Link or the OBSBot, and then using an HDMI camera like the Sony ZV-1 with a better zoom lens. This lets you get a close-up shot and do an auto-tracking wide shot, and you can even do picture-in-picture layouts within the YoloBox Mini. You can also load video clips from an SD card and play them back like another camera angle. Another feature they added to it in a recent update is the network bonding feature. This is the same network bonding feature of the YoloBox Pro. You can connect a USB modem, you can put in a SIM card, you can connect it to Wi-Fi, and even plug in Ethernet. And then you can bond all those connections together. This is an add-on service from Yololiv, and you will need to subscribe to that separately, but it is actually really impressive. Even a single bonded connection works better than without the bonding. What I mean by that is if you only have a cellular connection, like it's just Wi-Fi to your phone, or you've put a SIM card into the YoloBox, I've noticed that even just that one connection, if you turn on the bonding feature, it gives you a much more stable connection compared to not using the bonding. I've tried this out now while I've been traveling, and I even did a bicycle live stream in Amsterdam at IBC. Another great feature they added is the instant replay feature. When you use the instant replay, it will immediately play back the last 10 seconds or whatever you set, and those clips are now saved to the SD card and you can play them back later. And if you really do need more connections than just HDMI or USB, you can always connect an external video switcher over HDMI. Let's take, for example, an ATEM Mini with 4 inputs and 1 HDMI out. You can connect that ATEM Mini to the YoloBox over HDMI, and now you have 4 HDMI inputs going into the YoloBox. This is a great way to add a bunch of camera angles while still using the streaming features of the YoloBox. There are a bunch of features in the YoloBox that don't exist in the ATEM Mini, especially around streaming and graphics. For example, the YoloBox Mini can stream to multiple destinations at a time, unlike the ATEM Mini, which can only stream to one place. Plus, the YoloBox's streaming encoder, with or without the bonding connection, actually handles poor network conditions much better than the ATEM. If you're out in the field streaming over a cellular connection or on bad Wi-Fi, and you're using an ATEM Mini to do your stream, you'll notice that it very quickly gives you these cache full errors. And that's just because it doesn't handle the bad network conditions nearly as well as the YoloBox does. Another huge set of features in the YoloBox that you don't get in the ATEM Mini is all the graphics. You can add a web page as an overlay inside the YoloBox. It has a built-in scoreboard feature. It has built-in countdown timers. So it's really a great way to augment an ATEM Mini by using all the streaming and graphics features of the YoloBox. Now, this video wouldn't be complete without mentioning a few of the downsides of the YoloBox Mini. Before I mention these, I will also say that Yololiv has done a very good job of listening to this feedback and making changes based on the feedback. So if you agree with any of these downsides, please comment down below because they do watch the comments on these videos. I think the biggest downside for me personally is that there is still no option for external control of the YoloBox. I would love to be able to control this with Companion like the rest of the gear in my studio. I have all these buttons to the side here, which I use when I'm filming videos or doing live streams, and they control multiple devices in my studio. However, I can't integrate the YoloBox with that because there is no option for external control. Everything you do on the YoloBox is by touching the screen itself. Another problem I've frequently run into is the analog audio input on the YoloBox. It's weirdly quiet. If I connect a Rode Wireless Go, I actually have to turn that gain up to +10, and it's still pretty quiet in the YoloBox. If you listen back to some of the live streams I've done on my channel with the YoloBox, you'll notice that the audio is sometimes a lot quieter. The way around this is that I've had better luck connecting the microphone to a camera and then bringing that camera audio in through HDMI into the YoloBox. And then it works totally fine. The only downside, of course, is that my audio is tied to the camera, and if the camera battery dies, then the audio dies also. The other audio problem is that the USB audio has some quirks. You theoretically can plug in a USB microphone, or even a Rode Wireless Go over USB, but the problem is that you can't mix that audio with audio from other sources. You'll get this error on the screen. So it's either USB audio only, or you can have multiple audio coming in over HDMI or analog. I also want to share some of the gear recommendations of things that I've used often with the YoloBox that I find work really well. As far as cameras go, of course, any HDMI camera will work as long as it has clean HDMI out. But usually what I end up using with this is the Sony ZV-1. That's because it's a nice, small, compact camera, and it can be powered with the DC coupler, and of course it has clean HDMI out. It also has really good autofocus, which is what I often want if I'm out setting up a temporary studio in a hotel room or something. As far as USB cameras go, I like using either the Insta360 Link or an OBSBot PTZ camera. Those give you the auto PTZ tracking, and it's a pretty wide angle lens. And the nice thing about the USB cameras is, of course, they are powered over USB. You're also going to need something to get this YoloBox off the desk. There is a fan on the back, which means you should not set it flat on a table. So of course there's the PK1 Desktop Stand. This will set the YoloBox at a slight angle. It's actually a lot nicer to work with when it's sitting at this angle like this on a desk. There's also the YC Onion cage. Now there is a tripod screw on the bottom of the YoloBox, but the cage, once it's around it, it lets you attach things on the side like a mic receiver. As far as microphones go, again, whatever way you can get audio into your camera will give you the best result, but I like using the Rode Wireless Go. It's a nice small kit, it's a good microphone, but it does work the best if you plug it into the camera and bring the audio in over HDMI. So what are some of my final thoughts here? This is a super portable live streaming kit, and it has a ton of features in it. And now that you can use both HDMI and USB cameras at the same time, it is infinitely more useful. Honestly, that was one of my big disappointments when it first launched, but they shipped a firmware update that enabled multiple camera switching in the YoloBox Mini. And now you can produce much more interesting live streams than just a single camera live stream. Yololiv has impressed me with how much they've continued to push out firmware updates ever since this launched. And again, they are really good about listening to customer feedback and making changes based on that. Now, the YoloBox Ultra is coming out soon, but that device is not going to replace the YoloBox Mini. That device is huge in comparison. It's not something I'm going to just throw in my bag on a trip without really considering why I'm bringing it. This I can put in my bag, not really plan ahead, and throw together a live stream really quickly with 2 cameras. It's been a lot of fun to travel with this and do live streams on the go, even mount it to a bicycle and ride around the city. It's definitely the easiest way I've had to produce live streams while traveling without having to carry a whole bunch of gear with me. So is the YoloBox Mini still worth it in 2023? I really do think so. I think it's a solid option for portable on-the-go live streaming. At about $700, it is also pretty affordable, especially compared to any of the other options you'll find out there that are similar size or similar feature sets. Let me know in the comments your favorite things about the YoloBox Mini, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.